So this is a bit of video I recorded, I don't know, a couple months ago. What you're about to see. And it was just a quick little thing I did, stuffing some springs inside the Verge rack escapement mechanism of a Linotype magazine frame. One of these things, but for the Model 8. Anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to just kind of give a little overview of what the escapements are in a Linotype. So this is my Model 31 Linotype. Yeah, Model 31. And I have the magazine unlocked. So this is a little lever that can... On older magazines, they call it a sword, and it was a bar you had to stuff in the end that locks the mats from falling out. So here's the mats. This is a Linotype magazine. This is actually a half magazine. So this is for small fonts. So if you could see inside a magazine, that's what you would see. So those grooves are what the mats run in. And even though this is a half magazine, the mats from the distributor get dropped in way up there, and they still have to slide all the way down to the half magazine. So there's the half magazine. Whereas what you see over there's some junk sitting in front of them. Those are full magazines. Anyway, where was I? Right. So when you press a key on the keyboard down here, through a bunch of magic, it pushes on a rod that ultimately pushes on this little plunger here. It's called, well, we'll see what it's called when I get to the vocabulary. When we push on that, I'm just going to make sure I do this right. Whoop, we get a single mat. It's like a mat vending machine. That would be a liter or something. Now we can push it again. Oh, that was all that was in there. They're fairly common mats. Anyway, that is what's known as the escapement mechanism on a Linotype, and that's one of the mechanisms that makes it work. And I'll give you a little overview of how that works. But first I'm going to shut the camera off and run these back into the magazine backwards, back through the escapement, which is not the way it's meant to be done. Alright, shoved the mats back in the magazine. So I created a little illustration here because I couldn't be bothered to figure out how to create an animation. Sometimes you just don't want to learn a whole new piece of software just for something quick. And this is a cross-section of what we were just looking at. See, there's a mat. And I traced over the parts in a scan of a Linotype parts catalog to figure out these shapes, and then just kind of scaled them until they fit. It's all very approximate. But anyway, so at rest, here's the springs that you'll see shortly. These are the, well, let's go over the terms. This is the Verge, this little brass thing. That's a pivot that it pivots on. There's a rod that runs the length of the magazine frame. And then these pawls, they move up and down. They rock on that pivot point there. And then this Verge plunger is what you see sticking out right there. So those are the Verge plungers. You can just see, let's see if I can find where my finger is. Nope. You can just see the pawls moving. So you can see them going up. So in the video you're about to see, which I recorded before this, I was a bit confused on the terminology. And the reason I was confused is because none of these things are the escapement. The assembly is the escapement, but it's the Verge and pawl and the Verge plunger are the pieces in a spring. So when you push a key on the keyboard, the escapement gets pushed on. The Verge plunger is pushed. You can see that's got a little bit rock now, and that drops that pawl, lifts that pawl. This is all at an angle in reality, and so that frees this mat, and it traps that one. So then we get to here where that mat falls out of the magazine, and this one is trapped. And then when these switch positions, which I didn't draw, but you'll have to just imagine it. When these switch, then we come back to here. Is that right? Yeah, so this one drops, that one goes up, the whole thing slides down, and we're back to this state. So what you're seeing in the video, the upcoming video, is upside down, and that, and even the pawls, or the plungers are hidden. All you can really see is a bit of the plunger, this part of the verge, and the spring, and that's about it. Anyway, it's a little overview of how that works. I've always kind of just been curious about the geometry of this, and so this is a fairly accurate representation of the geometry, if you're curious. There it is. And on to the video. I thought I'd bring you in to join in the fun of replacing escapement springs. Stop that from happening. So this is the escapement out of a Model 8 Linotype, the escapement, I don't know what it is, what the actual word is. Anyway, all the springs are missing, or most of them. There's some over here, about that much. But I did pick up some Model 31 magazine frames, and luckily the springs didn't change. So the Model 31 springs work just fine in this Model 8 escapement rack. It's actually really easy to replace. There's a small V-notch in the bottom of these things, so this, once they're in, they don't pop out. But they need to be covered. If they're not covered, they get bumped, and then they start to come out really easy. Oop, there we go. And all I have to do is poke it in there, push it down, and catch that edge. The thicker they are, they sit lower. Or is that one just jammed? Oh, that's just jammed. Might need some love. No. Can be fixed later. I'm out of springs, so I gotta go harvest more. There's a whole stack more. That's how long it takes to clean them out of there. They just fall right out. Something I'm noticing is that these holes here aren't drilled in a perfectly straight line, or is it an illusion? Some of them look crooked. I doubt they would have hand drilled. Well, they would all be hand drilled, but with a jig. So I don't think it would have been a good idea to eyeball these. Still didn't grab enough. Alright, how many more do I need? Yeah, they were 8. 8 more. Should probably do. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ta-da! So if I flip this over, you can see where right here, this is where these are the escapements. So when they're pushed on, one side goes down, the other goes up, which lets one mat through. I wonder what that number matches. I will check in a minute. Oh, shoot. That's what I get for touching it. So on the far side here, you can't see me fiddling there. I'll do this. That's all that was remaining of the originals. So those are the 99-year-old springs. And then these would have been from, I think it was a 1950 something machine. So the cover drops on and stops those things from getting knocked out again. And littered from here to Alberta, I'm sure. No, from here to Seattle. That one's really quite sticky. Oh, because this one's bent. I'm sure a hammer will fix that. I don't think those are compatible. Well, they might be. Alright, there it is. That's how to install the springs. Is it a verge rack? Is that what this is? I can't remember.